What's up, wedding filmmakers? Bobby here from Wedding Film School, and I am pumped for this video because we are talking about one of my favorite shots of the day, the ring shot. And I'm gonna give you 7 tips that you can implement instantly to improve your ring shots. Let's get into it. Thanks for being here. If you like wedding filmmaking content, we'd love to have you subscribe. And if you want to be the first to see gear reviews and tutorials, or if you want to be alerted when we go live for our weekly wedding film reviews, make sure you also click that notification bell. All right, ring shots are something I love because it's one of the few times of the day where I feel I can set up anything I want. So we're gonna start with some basics and work our way deeper as we move along these 7 things that you can do to instantly upgrade your ring shots. And not to be that guy, but these get increasingly better. Number 7 being perhaps the most important in bringing your shots to the next level. So starting off with number 1, make sure you have the right tools for the job. You're going to want a macro lens. I still use the Canon 100 macro from back in my Canon days, but there are plenty of macro options out there. A macro lens is called a macro lens because it has a very short focus distance, allowing you to get up nice and close to small things like wedding rings and still pull focus. But the great part about these lenses is that they aren't single use. They can focus at a normal distance as well and be a great lens to add to your kit for non-macro shots too. Tip number 2 is to stop down, meaning make your aperture or your f-stop a higher number. This closes down your aperture, which keeps more in focus, which is important when you're shooting an ultra close-up shot of a ring. Know that as you stop down, your aperture will be letting in less and less light, so you're gonna need to compensate accordingly, either in your camera settings or with tip number 3, which is to use lights for your ring shots. Lights can help you separate your subject, the rings, from whatever background you choose and allow you to stop down and keep more in focus. They can also play a big role in getting more creative with your ring shots, which we're gonna jump into later. And you can use whatever lights you want. I like to use some smaller LED panels sometimes as a rim light or a side light, but the main light that I almost always use to hit the diamond or the front of the ring is the one that I always have on me, well, except for right now because I'm using it to record, and that is my phone. I like it because it's so small, it's not gonna spill all over the place with the light, and it's very easy to hold and maneuver around the ring. Tip number 4 is to use manual focus. Now, autofocus can have its place in a wedding day, but the ring shot is not one of them. Even when you're stopped down, the focal plane can still be razor thin, and you don't want the autofocus system to be doing any slight searching while you're recording. So throw that shot into manual focus, zoom in, pull focus, and lock that shot in. Speaking of manual focus, make sure you are focusing in the right place, which brings us to tip number 5. Focus on the diamond. If there is a diamond or a main stone, this is gonna be the focal point of your shot. It's gonna be where the eye is drawn to. It's where you wanna aim your light, and therefore it is where you want your focus to be. This can be tough to do as a diamond is see-through in a sense, and there are layers to it. So if you can't seem to find the perfect focus on the front of the diamond, a little trick you can do is to pull focus on the closest prong that holds the diamond and then adjust from there. Also, make sure to utilize the zoom in feature if your camera or monitor has it, as that will make a huge difference in effectively pulling focus. Tip number 6 is to understand how much a little bit of motion can affect such a close shot. And what I mean by this is basically you need to be careful. You want to set everything and get ready to go, and you need to be especially mindful of any footsteps from yourself or other people, people dancing, even loud bass from a DJ. All of these things will cause movement either in the rings themselves or your tripod, which you should be using, and you may not catch it when shooting, but you might come back in the edit room and see some micro jitters in the footage. So get away from anything like that. Be sure to be careful with moving around while you're actually recording, and be especially careful if you plan to do any camera movement with your shots, as any unintentional movement will be much more present in a macro shot. And last but not least, tip number 7 is to get creative with it. You've got tip 1 through 6 to nail down the basics to execute a ring shot, and now you need to make it your own. And you can do this in a lot of different ways, but some things that I love to use to spice up a ring shot are lights, reflections, and movement, or a combination of those. You'll always see me bringing around a few tools for my ring shots. The first of which is a phone or an iPad. This is the YOLO box, it's the same idea, or even if you have an extra monitor that you're not using for this shot, just a nice, dark, glossy surface. You can even find a dark glossy surface on tables or things that might already be in the location. And I'm using these surfaces because I love using reflections. So I'll set my rings on that surface and I'm going to utilize the reflection it provides. I already talked about using lights to separate my rings a little bit, but you can also move that light around, which gives you that awesome sparkle from the diamond, gives you some cool lighting and movement in frame. And you're also going to see me bringing a prism. Now, this prism is not the one I always use. I typically have another one, but I recently broke it. So the one that I'm going to link is more the traditional style. It's a triangle and a little bit bigger, but this works quite well as well. And with the prism, you might see me moving it around or rotating it, and especially when combined with the light, you can get some awesome flares and colors. And the best part of all of this is that you don't need a whole lot of stuff or movement to get great results in your ring shots. The movements are subtle, the light can be your phone, the prism that I'm linking is like $15 down below, so it's a lot of things that you can easily access that will instantly have an impact on your ring shots. So there it is, guys, 7 tips that you can easily implement to upgrade those ring shots instantly. If you've got things that you do that I didn't mention, I want to hear about it down below in the comments. We've got a ton of great content here on Wedding Film School for you between myself, Jared, and Jason. So I'd encourage you to check out our other videos as well as our podcast, The Wedding Film School Show, and our weekly live film reviews where we review films that are submitted by our amazing community of subscribers, which is you guys. Speaking of, be sure to subscribe, hit that little bell so you can be the first to know when we drop new content or go live. Join us over on our Facebook group, Wedding Film School, and I will see you in the next video.